Hi everyone, my name is Ray, or some of you might know me as Tiki with Ray, and today I am on the outskirts of Ohio at the first ever Mai-Tai Mayhem. Sitting here next to me is going to be one of the people that's going to be part of one of the speaking sessions tomorrow, Tiki Tom Tom.
Thanks for the invite.
And Tom and I have something in common. We both have seen and visited
A whole lot.
a whole lot of home tiki bars.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, Tom. I mean, it is definitely a privilege to do that.
Mm-hmm. It is.
The thing that I love the most about tiki is the home tiki bars, and I never ever forget the fact that it's like, this is someone's home, and they're inviting me in, and I just love seeing what people come up with, their own personalities. Tiki Tom Tom has gone to, before you finished your book, how many bars was that?
75 are in the book
Yeah.
itself. So I finished the 75, and that's when I started writing. That's when I started, pulling everything together.
Yeah, and when I actually had Tom on the show, and at that point you were just starting to do your travel.
I think it was around 60, or getting close to 60
Yeah.
when we did that first one. Yeah.
And I remember you're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm like,
Yeah.
cool, that's great. And I have it. I have my copy. And it's an amazing book. The name of the book is called Polynesiacs. When you finished your trip, the first one, and started writing your book, what are some things that you noticed? What are some things that you saw?
Well, I tell this story a lot, but being a former educator, I felt like I had this dual responsibility when I was on this trip, not only to photograph the amazing things that people have created, but also to say, how can I give back? How can I share the information that I learned with other people who might want to build a bar?
Yeah.
And so I had in my mind, like, what were the things that I was seeing that were common, what were different?
Yeah.
And so I think since we last talked, I mean, where I ended up with is I created what I call nav points.
What are they called?
Nav points.
NAV, like navigation.
Like navigation points.
Okay.
And part of that was I was inspired thinking about the voyage of the Hokulea, which is the sailing ship, Polynesian sailing ship.
Yeah.
And anybody who builds a home tiki bar, no one follows the same recipe. No one does it the same way. And so to me, it was a lot like sailing a ship. You can choose to go in any direction you want to. It's about learning how to read the wind. It's learning, how to read the waves, those kinds of things. And so I said, what can I learn from all the people that I've interviewed and share that? And so that ended up being the 16 nav points, which are just
16?
in my 16.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they're all different things that people can, to kind of just beat that analogy to death, set sail for. So, for example, a lot of people don't start by actually building the bar. Some people start by building a collection. Yeah. Whether it's aloha shirts, whether it's tikis, whether it's mugs, whatever it is at this point. So it's commonalities that I saw in the people that are doing the builds.
Interesting. And I think what I always found that was like that's how it started for me.
Mm-hmm.
I started collecting mugs, and then I needed a cool shelf to put it on. So I bought a bamboo shelf, and then all of a sudden, I picked up a tiki and stuff like that. And well, if you can, what are some of these napkins? Can you talk about those?
Yeah, sure. I'll do a highlight of a couple of them.
Yeah, please.
But I think one that I found, and it's the very first one, is tell a story.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a story in your home bar in order to, make it a beautiful home bar. But what I found was that people who had a story in mind in how they organized, what they collected, those kinds of things, it made a huge difference with regard to how you felt in that space. And what I mean by story is I don't mean literally once upon a time there was a... I mean that there's...
Once upon a time there was this tiki guy.
I mean that there's... When you walk in this space, you're like, this is telling me something. Yeah. There's a feeling I get from it. And whether that's recreating... one of my favorites, actually Jason and Andrew here, is that when you walk into their basement bar, this is up in Detroit.
Yeah.
You feel like it's a little naughty because it's like you're in your grandparents' basement bar and you're not supposed to be there. Oh. And you feel that immediately. You're like, I love this place because I'm not supposed to be here.
Oh,
So
my God.
there's a story. You feel like there's something more than just, kind of what I call a decorating exercise. So tell a story.
Yes.
One of the points I end with
Yeah.
is that a lot of times when people have created this amazing space, they
Yeah.
go even further. And so, one of the things I say is people give back.
Yeah.
So the last nav point has to do with people using their spaces to do good for the world.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, people are doing fundraisers in their spaces.
Are they really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're doing great things to kind of give forward, if you will.
What different things have you noticed? As far as like the style of the bars? What have you noticed?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of different styles out there. I will say, certainly when you look at West Coast home bars, there's a lot more influence of what I would call Tiki from that particular period. So we're looking at people who grew up with spaces in the 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
and they see that. Whereas you'll see more East Coast may have to do more with like influence from visiting Disney World or Disneyland.
Yeah.
And seeing like the Enchanted Tiki Room or seeing other kind of spaces.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's different influences depending upon the age of the people that built the bar or what they've seen when they were growing up.
So you're seeing a lot of Disney influence with some places.
Particularly with those that's their earliest memory of Tiki. If their first memory of Tiki is I loved going to the Enchanted Tiki Room, you're going to see Disney stuff, and you'll also probably see Oceanic Arts stuff there. But
Yeah.
that's because there was a lot of Oceanic Arts at Disney.
Now, what about, if you're talking about Oceanic Arts, what about Wicco stuff? Where do you see the most Wicco?
Definitely the people who were influenced with that early kind of scene
Yeah.
Whitco. So people who were influenced by mid-mod.
Yeah.
People who saw Whitco in actual places growing up.
Yeah.
I had the good fortune. I'm now at Bar 91, and since you mentioned Whitco,
Yeah.
Bar 91 was the Naga Hideaway. Oh my God, don't you love that name? The Naga Hideaway. And she has the largest collection of Whitco I've ever seen.
Yeah.
She was proud of herself for moving that collection down
Yeah.
to 150 Whitco pieces in her current home.
Whittle it down to 150.
Whittle it down. She had more
my
than
God.
300 pieces of Whitco at one point. And so, I can't wait to start working on the photographs from that space. Her space is amazing.
Have you seen any tiki bars where the actual tiki element isn't there so much, but there's something else going on? Like a different theme?
Well, I've kind of used the organizing principle that my book is about tiki bars, and so
Yeah.
if there is not a single tiki in the space,
Yeah.
I don't normally put it on my list.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have to do with purism per
Yeah.
se, because I talk about the difference between kind of authenticity and eccentricity in the book as
Yeah.
well. But more just an organizing principle. So I mean, I'm looking at tiki bars across the U.S. There's probably a tiki somewhere. Certainly, the influence of pop culture is there. So
Yeah.
the examples I see the most have to do with monsters and tiki. So Creature from
Monsters.
the Black Lagoon
Yep.
is probably the most common pop element I've seen in home tiki bars. Followed by, of course, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Yes, you're
Yes.
going to occasionally see those.
But what
Star
about
Wars.
Star Trek?
Oh man, I have not seen anybody. I'm a huge Trekkie.
Yeah.
I have not seen a tiki bar Trekkie,
What
a
the hell?
Trekkie bar, if you will.
Well, that being
Yeah.
said, okay, well, that being
So
said,
whoever's out there, this is your opportunity.
okay, Tom, well, that being said,
Yeah.
do you feel that like Star Wars and tiki mixes well, or not? Or
I refuse to get into the middle of that whole
Yeah,
conversation.
Yeah.
Because, and this is the reason why, because it's your freaking home.
Yeah.
So it's like you put whatever you want in your home. Now, the way I do talk about it, though, is that I also want to make sure that Tiki, in terms of authenticity, it is our inspiration.
Yeah.
It is the period that inspired us to do all these
Yeah.
immersive bars. So I want to pay homage to that. I want people to understand what it is to have Tiki,
yeah,
At the same time, though, I make it a point to say people are going to put whatever pop influences they
Yeah.
like, with their bar and make it their own.
that's the thing that I love the most.
Absolutely.
Tom, is the thing that I love is the personal aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And the people, and say hypothetically, like I'll be on, like I'm going to say it, I don't have a problem at all with people mixing tiki and something else together.
Yeah.
I really don't. I mean, to me, you talk about the hypothetical waves. I think that's what the fourth wave is going to be, the combination of stuff. And I don't. I think that's cool. You know, just like you're saying there was a lot of people that like combine, like say, monsters and stuff like that. Well, here's the thing. I was at a home tiki bar, actually, Chuck Burns up in Detroit, and he's coming at it from like a hot rod kind of rock and roll punk thing going on, mixed with it.
Yeah.
And like, it's so cool. In fact, I even said to him, "It's like, I've never been to a tiki bar like this," and that's the thing that I really love. It's like I always kept on thinking, like when I was going to go to all the home tiki bars, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get to a point where like, yeah, there's going to be a whole bunch that kind of look the same. No,
Never happens.
what was the most outlandish thing that you've seen in a home tiki bar?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, tiki itself is a bit outlandish, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what's the most outlandish of the outlandish? I don't know that in terms of style or collection or those kinds of things. It more has to do with scale, maybe.
Yeah.
Certainly the size of some of the bars, and I mean either the grandness of it or
Yeah.
the smallness of it. So, the one bar that I visited called the Forbidden Hole, which is literally a closet that was turned into
A closet?
It's literally like a 4-person room. That,
Oh,
and
man.
It's fun in its own way.
Yeah.
And then you get to something like the huge place that Caroline built, in terms of the Moai Ice House, and that's just, it's the Taj Mahal of home tiki bars at this point. So there's a lot of variance.
My friends Heather and Don Waters, where they had not one,
Oh,
not two, but 3 home tiki bars. That's
Yeah.
insane, and they're all completely themed differently and
Yes.
everything like that.
Yeah, amazing.
I've seen volcanoes in tiki bars.
Yeah.
You're hitting the road again,
Yes.
so let's talk about that.
I just finished bar 91.
91?
Yes, I will be visiting bars 92 through 99 over the next 10 days. And so, my goal is to get to 100. And what I'll do then is my thought is to shift gears.
Yes.
I'm thinking about starting book 2, and book 2 will not be about home tiki bars,
Yeah.
but about people who are Polynesiacs who are in the arts. So
Okay.
musicians, craftspeople,
Yeah.
all the different people who are out there working really hard to create things. So,
And I'll tell you what, out of all the books out there, yours is probably one of the most important, because there's a lot of people who are going to look at your books and read them and get inspiration.
I hope so.
And they can see that and be like, oh, okay, so this is going on, And maybe like reading some of the stories, they can get like, oh, okay, well, that's how you do it.
I hope so.
And I love what you're doing, Tom. And
I love what you're doing.
yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm faking it. That's what I'm doing, Tom. I'm
You're not
faking it.
faking it. You're not.
But and that's the thing. Like even like with my blog, it's like I love the fact that like I have a place that people like. Here's a post on your bar, and then they can say to your friends, "Yeah, here, look at this. Here's a write up on my bar." Same thing with you with your book. It's like, hey, look at I'm in a book, and that really means a lot to people.
Yeah.
And anything I could do to promote tiki and to show that it's cool is what I like to do.
Yeah.
And you're doing the same thing, Tom. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Want to support the Tiki with Ray show and look cool doing it at the same time? Then head over to tikiwithray.com and buy yourself a Tiki with Ray shirt. They're only $20. Tony Canepa did the design, and they're screen printed in America.